Welcome to another deep dive into the fascinating world of cannabinoid receptors. This time, we're going beyond the familiar CB1 and CB2. We're diving deep into some cutting-edge research on these mysterious players.
Yeah, absolutely. And it has huge implications for pharmacology. We're discovering a whole ensemble cast with unique roles to play. It's not just about the main characters in the cannabinoid story that we thought we knew.
Okay, so we're skipping cannabinoid receptors 101 then. Our listeners already know the basics.
Yeah, I think so. We can get right to the good stuff.
Perfect. What are some of these new players then, and why are they causing such a stir?
Well, one of the most intriguing is GPR55.
Ah.
It's like that enigmatic character in a movie, they keep popping up in unexpected places.
Uh,
We know it responds to certain cannabinoids, but its structure is quite different from CB1 and CB2.
So it's a bit of a rebel then. What kind of trouble is it causing? What processes is it involved in?
Well, studies have linked GPR55 to a surprisingly diverse range of functions. It seems to be involved in regulating blood pressure, bone density, and even cancer cell growth.
Wow, that's quite a portfolio. So are we talking about potential new treatments for osteoporosis or cancer therapies, or maybe even something to do with blood pressure? Where are scientists focusing their efforts?
All of the above. The research is still in its early stages, but the therapeutic implications are vast. For example, one study found that activating GPR55 actually promoted the growth of certain cancer cells, while blocking it seemed to inhibit tumor growth.
Hold on, so this receptor could be both a friend and a foe? That's a bit unsettling, isn't it? It makes you wonder if targeting it could have unintended consequences.
Yeah, that's a valid concern, and it highlights the complexity of the cannabinoid system. It's not a simple on-off switch. There's a delicate balance involved, and manipulating one part of the system can have ripple effects elsewhere.
Makes sense. It's like a complex ecosystem. You can't just introduce a new species or remove one without considering the consequences. So how are researchers navigating this complexity when it comes to drug development?
Well, they're taking a very cautious and targeted approach. One strategy is to develop drugs that are highly selective, meaning they only bind to GPR55 and not other receptors to minimize off-target effects.
So it's like designing a key that fits perfectly into one specific lock and leaves the others untouched. That sounds incredibly challenging.
It is, but it's essential to ensure the safety and efficacy of any new drug that targets this receptor.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. You mentioned that GPR55 is just one of many atypical cannabinoid receptors. What are some of the other intriguing characters in this ensemble cast?
Another one that's grabbing attention is TRPV1. It's a fascinating receptor that plays a key role in our perception of pain, particularly inflammatory pain.
I've heard of that one. It's the receptor that makes us feel the burn when we eat chili peppers, right?
Exactly. TRPV1 is activated by a variety of stimuli, including capsaicin, the compound that gives chili peppers their heat. But what's really interesting is that certain cannabinoids, like cannabidiol or CBD, can actually modulate TRPV1 activity.
So that's why some people find relief from chronic pain with CBD. It's like turning down the volume on those pain signals by interacting with TRPV1.
Precisely. And this has opened up a whole new avenue for pain management research. Scientists are exploring various molecules that can either activate or block TRPV1 with the goal of developing more effective and targeted pain relievers.
That makes sense. And I imagine this research is particularly relevant for conditions like arthritis and nerve pain, where inflammation plays a major role. Are there any specific examples of drugs in development that target TRPV1?
There are indeed. One promising example is a compound called resinifera toxin, derived from a cactus-like plant. It's a potent TRPV1 activator that's being investigated for its potential to treat chronic pain conditions like osteoarthritis.
So by activating TRPV1, it actually desensitizes the pain pathway. That seems counterintuitive. Wouldn't that make the pain worse?
It might seem that way at first, but the idea is to overload the system, so to speak. By repeatedly activating TRPV1 with an agonist, you can essentially desensitize the receptor, making it less responsive to pain signals over time.
Ah, so it's like training your taste buds to tolerate spicy food. At first, it might be overwhelming, but with repeated exposure, the heat becomes less intense.
That's a great analogy, and it highlights the potential of this approach for managing chronic pain.
This is already making my head spin. We've covered so much ground, from the mysterious GPR55 to the pain-sensing TRPV1. I'm eager to learn more about how scientists are trying to translate this knowledge into actual treatments.
Well, that's what we'll delve into in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore the exciting world of drug discovery and examine how researchers are leveraging these atypical cannabinoid receptors to develop innovative therapies for a range of conditions.
Sounds like a plan. I can't wait to hear more about the cutting-edge research happening in this field. What's next on our list?
Next, we'll take a closer look at PPARs. It's a family of receptors involved in metabolism and inflammation that are also showing promise as potential targets for cannabinoid-based therapies.
PPARs. Those sound familiar. Are they involved in things like regulating blood sugar and cholesterol levels? What do they have to do with the cannabinoid system?
That's a great question, and one that's still being unraveled by researchers. It turns out that PPARs can be modulated by certain cannabinoids, and this interaction has some intriguing implications for treating conditions like diabetes, obesity, and even cancer.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about these PPARs and how they fit into the bigger picture of cannabinoid pharmacology.
Well, PPARs are actually a family of nuclear receptors, and unlike GPR55 and TRPV1, which sit on the cell surface, these guys are found inside the cell nucleus. They act as transcription factors, meaning they directly influence which genes are turned on or off.
So they're like the control room of the cell, dictating which proteins get made, and ultimately influencing a whole cascade of cellular processes.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that PPARs play a crucial role in regulating lipid metabolism, glucose homeostasis, and inflammation. They're like master regulators of our metabolic health.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
So how do cannabinoids fit into this picture? How do they interact with these powerful PPARs?
Well, research has shown that certain cannabinoids, particularly the non-psychoactive cannabidiol or CBD, can actually bind to and activate specific subtypes of PPARs. This activation, in turn, triggers a cascade of downstream effects that can impact everything from insulin sensitivity to inflammatory responses.
So by modulating PPAR activity, CBD could potentially influence conditions like diabetes and obesity. That's pretty incredible. It makes you wonder if we're just scratching the surface of what cannabinoids can do.
Absolutely, and that's why this field is so exciting. We're only just beginning to understand the full scope of the cannabinoid system and its therapeutic potential.
Okay, so we've got these PPARs regulating metabolism and inflammation, and now we're finding that cannabinoids can actually influence their activity. Where does this lead us in terms of drug development?
Well, it opens up a whole new avenue for treating a wide range of conditions. For example, PPAR agonists, compounds that activate these receptors, are already being used to treat type 2 diabetes. But research suggests that cannabinoid-based PPAR modulators could offer even greater therapeutic benefits, potentially with fewer side effects.
That's fascinating. So we're talking about potentially using cannabinoids to treat everything from metabolic disorders to inflammatory diseases.
Exactly. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Research is also exploring the potential of cannabinoid-based PPAR modulators for treating neurodegenerative diseases, cardiovascular diseases, and even cancer.
This is mind-boggling. It sounds like these PPRs are involved in almost every aspect of our health, and now we're discovering that cannabinoids can actually influence their activity. This is definitely a deep dive I won't forget anytime soon.
I agree. And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore in this rapidly evolving field.
Well, I'm on the edge of my seat, ready to learn more. Lead the way.
Welcome back. Remember we were just discussing how PPARs, these master regulators of metabolism and inflammation, could be influenced by cannabinoids. Now let's get specific. Look at how this translates into potential therapies.
Yeah, I'm ready to hear about the real-world applications. So we've been talking about PPAR agonists being used for diabetes already. What makes cannabinoids potentially better?
Well, think of it like this. Current PPAR drugs can be blunt instruments affecting a broad range of metabolic processes. This can lead to side effects like weight gain or fluid retention.
So it's like using a sledgehammer when you really need a scalpel.
Exactly. Cannabinoids, on the other hand, offer the potential for more targeted modulation of PPAR activity. For example, CBD seems to preferentially activate PPAR gamma, a subtype particularly involved in insulin sensitivity and inflammation.
Okay, so that means CBD could potentially help regulate blood sugar and reduce inflammation.
Yeah.
Without triggering those unwanted side effects associated with broader PPAR activation. That's a pretty big deal for people struggling with conditions like diabetes or obesity.
Precisely. And it's not just about managing existing conditions. There's also growing evidence that cannabinoids could play a preventative role. Studies have shown that CBD can improve insulin sensitivity and reduce inflammation in animal models even before the onset of disease.
Wow, so we're talking about potentially using cannabinoids to prevent metabolic disorders from developing in the first place. That's a game changer.
It certainly has that potential, but remember, this is still an emerging field of research. More studies, especially in humans, are needed to confirm these findings and determine the optimal dosages and long-term effects.
Of course. But it's incredibly exciting to see this potential. It makes you wonder what other surprises are hiding within the cannabinoid system.
Absolutely. And speaking of surprises, PPARs are also being investigated for their potential role in cancer treatment.
Wait, really? I thought we were talking about metabolism and inflammation. How do PPARs fit into the cancer puzzle?
Well, it turns out that PPARs can influence cell growth and differentiation. In some cancers, activating PPARs can actually inhibit tumor growth and induce cell death.
So it's like flipping a switch that tells the cancer cells to stop dividing and self-destruct.
That's a simplified view, but essentially yes. And some studies suggest that cannabinoids, by modulating PPAR activity, could enhance these anti-cancer effects.
Okay, now my mind is officially blown. We've gone from pain relief and metabolic regulation to potential cancer therapies. What other secrets are these atypical cannabinoid receptors hiding?
Another area where these receptors are showing promise is in neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Oh, wow. I know those diseases are incredibly complex and devastating. What role could cannabinoids possibly play in such intricate conditions?
Well, it's all about the intricate interplay between inflammation, oxidative stress, and neuronal survival. Research suggests that atypical cannabinoid receptors like GPR55 and PPARs are involved in these processes, and modulating their activity with cannabinoids could offer a new therapeutic avenue.
Okay, let's break that down. How do these receptors contribute to the development of neurodegenerative diseases?
Well, in conditions like Alzheimer's, you have a buildup of amyloid plaques in the brain, which triggers inflammation and oxidative stress, leading to neuronal damage and cell death.
Right. It's like a cascade of destruction within the brain. So where do these receptors fit in?
Well, studies have shown that GPR55, that enigmatic receptor we talked about earlier, is actually involved in regulating microglial activity.
Microglia. Those are the immune cells of the brain. Right. What do they have to do with amyloid plaques and neurodegeneration?
Microglia play a complex role in Alzheimer's disease. On the one hand, they can help clear away those harmful amyloid plaques, but if their activity goes unchecked, they can actually contribute to inflammation and neuronal damage.
So it's like a delicate balancing act. You need the microglia to clear the debris, but you don't want them to go overboard and cause more harm.
Exactly. And this is where GPR55 comes in. Research suggests that modulating GPR55 activity could potentially fine-tune microglial activity, promoting their beneficial effects while minimizing their harmful ones.
So it's like giving the microglia a set of instructions on how to clean up the brain without causing too much collateral damage.
That's a good analogy. And this is just one example of how targeting atypical cannabinoid receptors could lead to novel therapies for complex neurodegenerative diseases.
That's incredible. It's amazing to think that these receptors, once considered minor players, could hold the key to treating such devastating conditions.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of continued research in this field. The more we learn about these receptors and their intricate roles in the body, the more potential we unlock for developing innovative therapies.
This has been an incredible journey so far. We've gone from exploring the basic science of these receptors to understanding their potential applications in a wide range of conditions. What else can we learn about these fascinating receptors and their therapeutic potential?
Well, one area that researchers are particularly excited about is the potential for personalized medicine.
Personalized medicine. That sounds futuristic.
Yeah.
What does that mean in the context of cannabinoid therapies?
It means tailoring treatments to an individual's unique genetic makeup and receptor profile.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, we're talking about developing therapies that are specifically designed for each person's unique needs.
Exactly. And with advancements in genetic testing and our growing understanding of the cannabinoid system, we're getting closer to that reality. Imagine a future where a simple genetic test could reveal your specific cannabinoid receptor profile, guiding doctors in prescribing the most effective cannabinoid-based therapy for you, whether it's for pain management, anxiety, or even a neurodegenerative disease.
That's a powerful vision. But I imagine there are some challenges to overcome before we reach that level of personalization.
Of course. One of the biggest hurdles is the sheer complexity of the cannabinoid system. We've been focusing on atypical receptors, but even those are just a small part of a vast network of signaling pathways and interacting molecules.
Right. It's like trying to solve a giant jigsaw puzzle with thousands of pieces. And we're still discovering new pieces all the time.
Precisely. Another challenge is the lack of truly selective drugs. Many of the compounds currently being investigated target multiple receptors, which can lead to unwanted side effects.
So it's like hitting multiple targets with one arrow, which might not always be the most precise approach.
Yeah.
What are scientists doing to address this issue?
They're working tirelessly to develop drugs that are more selective, targeting only specific receptors with high precision. This requires a deep understanding of the structural nuances of each receptor and how it interacts with different molecules.
It's like designing a key that fits perfectly into one specific lock, leaving the others untouched.
That's a great analogy. And with advancements in drug design and screening technologies, we're making significant progress in this area.
That's encouraging. But I imagine there's also a regulatory hurdle to overcome. Cannabis is still a controversial topic in many parts of the world.
Absolutely. The legal and regulatory landscape surrounding cannabis varies widely, which can hinder research and drug development efforts. However, there's a growing recognition of the therapeutic potential of cannabinoids, and attitudes are gradually shifting.
That's good to hear. So, despite the challenges, it seems like there's a lot of momentum in this field. What are some of the key areas that you think will see the most progress in the coming years?
I believe we'll see significant advancements in several areas, including personalized therapies, targeted drug development, combination therapies, and new therapeutic applications.
It's an incredibly exciting time to be following this field. It feels like we're only at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we can learn and achieve with cannabinoid-based therapies.
I completely agree. And remember, this is a rapidly evolving field, so staying informed is key. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and who knows what incredible discoveries await us in the years to come.
This has been an incredible journey so far. From GPR55 and PPARs to the complexities of the endocannabinoid system, it's clear that there's still so much to learn. What other intriguing avenues of research are scientists currently exploring in this field?
Well, one area that's generating a lot of buzz is the investigation of so-called entourage effects. This refers to the idea that the various compounds found in cannabis, including cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids, work together synergistically to produce a greater therapeutic effect than any single compound alone.
That's fascinating. So it's like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. We're not just talking about isolated cannabinoids anymore, but the entire symphony of compounds working in concert.
Exactly. And this concept of entourage effects has significant implications for drug development. Instead of focusing solely on isolating and synthesizing individual cannabinoids, researchers are now exploring ways to harness the power of the whole plant, potentially leading to more effective and well-tolerated therapies.
That's a really intriguing approach. It seems like a more holistic way of thinking about cannabinoid-based therapy.
Absolutely. And it's just one example of the innovative thinking that's driving progress in this rapidly evolving field.
This deep dive has been an eye-opener. We've gone from the basics of atypical cannabinoid receptors to the complexities of personalized medicine and entourage effects. I'm eager to see what the future holds for this exciting field.
Me too. The next few years will undoubtedly bring about many more fascinating discoveries, paving the way for even more innovative and effective cannabinoid-based therapies.
Well, I can't wait to see what the future holds. Thanks for taking me on this incredible journey. Welcome back for our final part of this deep dive into atypical cannabinoid receptors. It's been quite a journey.
Yeah.
From the lab bench to potential therapies, even personalized medicine.
It really has.
So much to unpack.
Yeah. And you brought up personalized medicine,
Yeah.
which is a huge frontier in this field. But it highlights one of the biggest challenges,
What's that? We talked about the complexity of this system and the need for more selective drugs. Is there something else holding us back?
Well, those are certainly hurdles, but there's also a fundamental gap in our understanding. We need more data, more research, especially in humans. A lot of this work we discussed is based on preclinical studies,
Okay.
often in animal models.
Ah, I see. So while the potential of these receptors is super exciting, we need to bridge the gap between promising lab findings and real-world applications for people.
Exactly. Like having a detailed roadmap, but needing to test drive the route, confirm its accuracy. We need well-designed clinical trials to assess the safety and efficacy of cannabinoid-based therapies, especially those targeting these less studied receptors.
Right. It's not enough to just show that a drug works in a petri dish or in mice. We need to understand how it behaves in people, with all our individual variations.
Precisely. And that's where things get even more complex. The human endocannabinoid system is incredibly diverse, influenced by genetics, lifestyle, even past experiences.
So what works for one person might not work for another, even if they have the same condition.
Exactly. And this variability makes it even more crucial to conduct those robust clinical trials with diverse population
Yeah.
to tease apart the factors that influence individual responses to cannabinoid-based therapies, paving the way for truly personalized treatments.
It's a daunting task, for sure, but one that holds immense promise. Imagine a future where doctors can prescribe cannabinoid-based therapies with the same precision and confidence as other medications.
That's the ultimate goal. And while we're not there yet, the rapid pace of research gives me hope. We're constantly uncovering new insights, refining our understanding, and developing more targeted and effective therapies.
Well, this deep dive has definitely sparked my curiosity, and I'm sure it has for our listeners as well. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to share about the future of this field?
Well, I would simply encourage everyone to stay engaged and informed. This is a rapidly evolving landscape. New discoveries are emerging, challenging our assumptions, expanding the possibilities of cannabinoid-based therapies. The more we learn, the closer we get to unlocking the full potential of this incredible system.
It's a powerful reminder that science is a journey, not a destination. And in the case of cannabinoid research, it's a journey filled with intrigue, promise, and perhaps even a few surprises along the way. Thanks for being our guide on this deep dive.
The pleasure was all mine. I hope our listeners got a deeper understanding of these receptors and maybe even a little inspiration for further exploration.
Absolutely. It's clear that the future of cannabinoid therapeutics is bright, and these atypical receptors are playing a starring role. So as you continue your own journey of discovery, keep in mind the complexity, the potential, and the ongoing quest for knowledge that drives this exciting field. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.